Romance is in the air. Today we're going to be talking about the lost art of romance. Dun, dun, dun.
Hello, everybody. Happy Monday.
Welcome to Carlie's Couch. My name is Lextopia.
And I am CC Fierce / Carlie Carpio on Twitter.
Carlie Carpio. And we want to wish you a happy Valentine's Day this week.
The lovers out there.
Happy Love Week. Hope you are loving on yourself and your friends and your family and your loved ones. Did you used to get stuff for Valentine's Day?
I did.
Like for your family?
Yeah, my mom would always get something like cute or kitschy. Like I used to get not baskets because those are for Easter, but it always be like a stuffed animal and a card. What about you?
We kind of got little baskets. I remember now that I look back, it was probably like little already created things like in the front of TJ Maxx type stuff because it would have like a little perfume in it and like a little candies and stuff. And then I remember in school, like you always had to go to CVS or go to the drugstore and get the candies and Valentine's to give out to everybody. So I used to love Valentine's Day just because I used to love like getting candy that day, kind of like Halloween. It's like Halloween part 2. So I don't know. That's what I like about it.
Man, I had some Power Ranger Valentines one year. I was all the way turned up. I was so excited about that. But yeah, so are you still a Valentine's Day celebrator? Do you still enjoy?
Yeah, I enjoy celebrating Valentine's Day, but not really in the same way. And I think that I will be maybe more excited about it, I guess, depending on relationship or if I have family or something like that. Like I'm not like decorating and I don't know, talking about it like that much really. So, but I think it's still important. I think it's cool. It's kind of weird that you start seeing the Valentine's Day stuff out in December, but I don't know, that kind of makes you kind of get off of everything. And between that and social media and, you know, it kind of just being like a war of like who can show off the most stuff. Yeah, that part's kind of whack. But, you know, it's nice to have love and feel love, however, you know, that works for you.
Yeah, so I hope y'all are feeling that this week. We're going to start with this week's question of the week. What was the first thing you learned how to cook?
And all of these are mad simple, which makes sense. 5 people said scrambled eggs.
Only 2 with cheese.
With cheese. Yeah, the cheese is the most important part.
3 people said grilled cheese.
Yep, that's legit. 2 people said pancakes. That's legit.
Ground turkey. I feel you because I learned how to cook meat with just making sure it was ground so it's cooked all the way through so I didn't kill myself or anybody.
Oh, shoot. I guess sometimes when it was like spaghetti night, we could maybe help by like cutting up the ground turkey, but I ain't never eat that just by itself. Well, speaking of which, the next person said spaghetti.
Look, y'all was doing a little bit advanced stuff for your first meal with mashed potatoes. Come on.
Yeah.
Unless you was just doing the mashing.
We used to help. You were like sidekick a lot of this. What? I want to say banana boat because it says bologna boat.
I'm from Oklahoma.
What's a bologna boat?
The capital
Bologna
of
sandwich
bologna,
makes sense.
and I don't know what a bologna boat is. So if you know, please hit us at Carlie's Couch and let us know. I asked the person, but they haven't responded. And then someone said waffles.
That makes sense. And then somebody said they still haven't learned how to cook anything edible. Poor baby. That's crazy.
Yeah, I want to say my first 2 things I really remember learning how to cook were scrambled eggs and then ground beef. And I just remember like mashing it up so little, like so that it could just be cooked all the way through.
But eat it by itself?
Well, I mean, this was when I was at home by myself, so I was trying to just make stuff happen. Lord. So I was seasoning it up, and just make sure I cooked it all the way through. What about you?
Mine was definitely like pastas. Like I remember I used to kill like a whole box of Kraft macaroni and cheese every day for lunch, and like ramen noodles, stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
so,
ramen. Does that count?
Yeah, like you still got to boil it, do it right, mix the stuff in. Like I think pastas was probably mine. And then I definitely did a lot of like grilled cheese, hot dogs, stuff like that.
Yeah. Boiled hot dogs.
Yeah.
I know. It's gross, but they used to be boiled.
God, we done got bougie now, but
yeah, yuck. Okay, so off the boiled hot dogs and back to the romance. This week's episode was inspired by I was reading an LA Times article about Usher Raymond.
Yes.
And it was a really good article. So if you Google LA Times Usher, I'm sure it'll pop up.
I'll have to read it.
It was great. But he had a quote in there that kind of got me thinking about romance in general and life. And so it said, "Romance is the young man's game. It keeps you young forever. It makes her feel alive," Usher said. "If you give that romance, she will flower for you. She'll look more gorgeous and beautiful and feel amazing, and she will be the shining star and the representation of herself. But more than anything, a representation of how you make her feel."
Ooh. So what do you feel about this quote? What are you hearing out of that?
I'm hearing, like, I don't know, it makes me happy. So first I'll tell you how it makes me feel, and then I'll say what I'm hearing. So it just makes me feel like happy and loved, and that really is true to me. Like, I feel like whenever you're loving and being loved well, like, you just shine. There's a little bit of glow, and you know that love, when it's healthy love and when you're loved well, you're able to be like the best version of yourself and show up, you know, in these spaces. And it feels good for someone who I would say has been at the forefront of music for so long, you know, to still keep that as his shining star, like in everything that he does. So that's kind of my first thoughts. What about you?
I like how he makes it seem like romance is about like reflecting, you know, the greatest things about you back to yourself, and how that's beneficial for both people, because for the partner, you're showing appreciation, you're showing them that you care, you're showing them how you feel about them, but also it's like he's saying it's a young man's game. I think because to put the slight effort, because it does take effort, the longer you're familiar with somebody, to put that effort into still seeing that in somebody and still wanting to make somebody else shine. I think that little bit of work is like an exercise for you, like mental exercise, and it does kind of keep you involved, because we love the things that we care about. I don't know if that makes sense, that we tend to, that we nurture, right? Like how we nurture things kind of reflects like how proud we are. And so it kind of, it's like to make my partner smile and then for them to smile, making me feel good too. Like it's just kind of a win-win. And of course I think that it goes both ways as well. But I think I like that he said it's an art. And I think that even though it's like, oh, it makes me feel good, he's still talking about like it's a little bit of something he has to do. Like it's a little bit of work.
Yeah, it's so intentional. They were talking about it like in life. So he was talking about it about his partner and in relationships, but also in the sense of like music, and how if you like look back, he's like, you know, there's no begging songs anymore. There's no Lenny Williams and Marvin Gaye and that type of stuff. And just like how the world has changed, and that it feels as if that we've kind of lost that art of romance. Like across the board in music and in life.
I don't think that we've lost the art of romance, in that just because I believe that you can find those things. And yet I probably would agree that romance is maybe no longer put on a pedestal, or like romance is no longer shown as much, particularly in music, I guess, that I'm thinking about. And maybe let's say also like in pop, right? Because even with music too, you can find all those pockets. It just ain't gonna be nobody you might know every track, or, you know, hear them on the radio, things like that. And I think that a lot of that is because of fear. I think that romance is a little bit more muted because we all want to protect ourselves a little bit more, and because we all want to be strong. And so we're talking about how you might not need nobody, or you're talking about how you're running through people, or you're talking about like, you know, different angles, because you are independent and you are strong. And I think those are qualities that are serving us, especially in this time and recessions and all kinds of things going on. And also that's always happened. It's always something, age or something, wars and stuff like that. But one other thing too, I think that we have to keep in mind as well, is that it's also probably because we're being a little more real in our music, because Lenny Williams and other folks was begging because they did the wrong thing. So like, let's not forget.
Context is very important.
Yeah, let's not forget that they had effed up and that they messed up. So yes, that's romance, because to me, and we could talk about what you think romance is, but to me, the romance is how you show it, and the romance is how you make somebody feel it, and the romance is in the details and the, you know, crossing the T's and dotting the I's. So that is romantic, to sing to me and to tell me how you're crying till the TV went off. And also, you having 2 other families is not very romantic. So it's still like fluff, right? So that's why it's like you still can't get caught up in that. And, Usher could be saying this, and if he was walling, his partner out on the back end, it's like, wow, that sucks. So romance is something that it's like, it feels good and it looks good. And hopefully it's also backed by that love part that really respects and all of those things. And so like them folks, the music was cute, but you was only begging for a reason.
Mm-hmm. I'm about to say, and if you think about it, it was a lot harder. Mm-hmm. They be like, oh, nobody stays together like grandparents. Back then, women couldn't do anything by themselves.
What was I finna do? I can't open no phone line. I can't get a house.
Can't do nothing. Can't even get a job. Can't wear pants. I can't wear pants. Like, so.
I can't vote? What you mean?
So.
What am I supposed to do?
I'm so glad you brought context into that. So yes, it sounds real romantic, but without the context, like that part is in fact not romantic. What I would say romance is to me, I agree, it's an art, it's showing it, it's making your partner feel wanted, feel seen, and also making them feel safe. And brave enough to be vulnerable and to be that best version of themselves. Like that's that romance. Like I feel like I can, fully just like he said, bloom like a flower, whatever, open up to you. But I can't do that if I don't feel safe, if I don't trust you, if there's not any intentional space. Like it's hard to do that. And also I feel like that's part of that discernment, because it's easy to get jaded and be like, man, F them people, I'm never going to be in another relationship. It's all bad. And it's not. Yet some of it is bad. And it's easy to get jaded by those bad experiences. But I'm a hopeful romantic. Hopeful. I'm not hopeless. I'm a hopeful romantic in the sense that it's an art. It's curiosity. It's playfulness. To me, it's fun to make someone feel wanted and feel sexy and feel seen. Like that's fun to me. It's an art in my head. I'm like, how can I surprise them this week? How can I surprise the draws up off them this week? How can I, I like it.
Yes. A couple of things. One thing you said, that in his quote, he said something about make you bloom like a flower or something like that, which also kind of made me think how much of romance also is dependent on us and your ability to still think a certain amount about yourself. Like we talked about with one of the last episodes, it is possible too that you could be with somebody who's very romantic this probably has happened to me, maybe like college or one of my first relationships. Like he's a really sweet all the time and literally getting on his knees and reciting poetry or making me dinner and blindfolding me to take me to a gazebo to eat and all these things, right? And at the time, I might be hardened or be acting, I'm not vulnerable enough to enjoy it, or and I don't want to say calling these people corny or soft or anything like that, because it was very romantic, and yet, how much of it is still on you you still got to be in a certain space, mentally, mindset, to accept those compliments or accept those flowers or to feel like you can bloom and feel safe with that person too. So as always, it's still that work you got to do to be in the right space for romance. And I would say that's something to think about, especially if you complain about it. Consider how you react to romance. I had a partner recently where for me, I felt like anytime I think they maybe didn't even realize it, right? Sometimes we just do things instinctually or out of the habit. But when I would get close, or if I'll be playing around and get softy and mushy, and they get uncomfortable. And then over time, that kind of made me be like, all right, well, I'm not really going to try. And then they get mad because oh, you don't never try to be close to me. And it's like, I don't think you realize the signs you send with that either. So very important for, you to accept romance, for you to pay attention to how you allow yourself to soak it in. As well as it's important for you to show to the other person as well.
Yeah, I think romance, as with anything, is a 50-50. It's reciprocal. So it's if they're putting it out, you have to be able to receive it, and vice versa. And I don't think that it's always 50-50. Sometimes if they're having a bad day, it might not be the time for those things. But also if they're always rejecting your advances, there might be something deeper that they need to heal. But I love the point that you brought it back to really focus on ourselves and our self-intimacy. Yeah. Because I think about I had a partner too in college that I dated, and he was super romantic. I was just not in that space. And
yeah, man, when you're not there, you're not there.
And also, I just don't think he was my person, which is also a thing. But I was also honest enough to tell him. So make sure y'all out there being honest.
So, which is a good point, that some romance can't cover up chemistry and compatibility and all of those other things. It's not enough. And just like how with one person it's and with the right person it's okay, yeah, it works. So I think there's still like a type. Even like maybe you have a romance type or something, probably.
I think there probably are romance types because I know some people who would be mortified. It doesn't matter who it is. If there was a public display of something like a big thing, like they would be like, want to kill you and know that you're not really respecting what they like if you're doing those things that they don't enjoy. But I know some people who probably love that.
Yeah.
So you got to know your
romance
partner.
is different. Yeah. So the romance should be based on your partner, and hopefully you know your partner enough to know if they like something intimate. If it's just maybe touching them a little bit more, if it's inviting them to stuff, or, you know, how do they want to be romanced? Like, I wonder, is that something that you've asked a partner before? Is like, how do they want to be shown that you care?
I have, and it's funny because they definitely told me, but they also say that they're weary about that in relationships because they don't want to tell, like when a person's like, oh, who's your dream guy? Like explain your dream guy. And then the person will change and then become that person you want them to be. And so like, yes, asking.
I'm not mad at that.
Really? That if
only if it's not really them. So like, it's always cringy when, because I've been like, oh yeah, what's my favorite song? It's this, and then as soon as you get in the car, they turn that song on. That's a little cringy sometimes. But if you're talking about like what you like and what you don't like or whatever, and they're putting effort into showing in your style, I'm not mad at that. Unless you see that maybe they're getting a little resentful or, you know, if it falls off or you're not. I think it's important when people are making a little extra effort to do a thing for you that you've said that you really need to like feed into it and appreciate it. It's very important, but it probably depends on the thing.
I think it's a fine line because if like the person doesn't read and you're like, oh, I want a man who reads and does this, and all of a sudden he's picking up books and doing this, like, okay, I can understand if he's trying to share something, but if it's not authentic to who they are, it is super cringy. But what I will say is, I think an issue when it comes to romance and love in general is that, like, yes, you can tell someone what you like and they can work to do that, and you also have to learn how to receive and how they give.
Yeah.
Which is hard. Which is hard because, you know. And
you got to accept, if it ain't right, it ain't right. Because I was just forever disappointed. And it sucks to even feel disappointed because you always caught between like, they did a thing. But I think that's the difference in romance. Is like, it's not just the do a thing, like, here's a thing. It's like how you gave it to them. How, like, did you, the note, like those details are where the romance, how you said something as you passed it. You know, I think that's what makes it romantic.
That, and then being intentional. So I don't like stuff. Like, I don't like clutter. I don't like hoarding junk, stuff like that. Because my grandpa was a hoarder. Mom kind of was. So I just don't like stuff like that. But if it's intentional, if I can tell, like, you saw a thing and you thought about me and you just knew, like, this was a thing I would enjoy or love. I love those things. And I think that is the subtle difference. Like, you can get someone, you know, I love flowers. So I'm never going to be mad about flowers. But, like, if you knew that I love peonies, and so you made an extra effort to get those instead of roses on Valentine's Day, like, I noticed those things. Yeah,
and that's important. I had a boyfriend once got me a subscription for flowers monthly, and I was like, oh, that's so sweet. And I got the first month, and they could write whatever they want to be in the card, and you get the flowers, cool. And then I remember like the second or third month, the note was blank. And for me, that was where I had an issue. And again, it's like people listening might be like, well, you're getting flowers, which is what you love. It's like, yes, I love the flowers, but now I know what I really love is the thought. And so if there wasn't even, you didn't even think, because I'm sure they sent a thing like, okay, your flowers are getting ready. Do you want to say a thing? And the fact that you didn't put anything on there, even if it was just say, have a good day, you know what I mean? Now I know that there's no more thought. So there was thought in getting the subscription, cool. And it still mattered to me that you thought about it with putting a little something on the card. And like, he didn't really get that. And he was so upset, like, bro, like, why is this not enough? And to me, that's just literally like a romance thing but you didn't think about it. You don't even know what's going on over here with this anymore. And so it's not just getting a thing, it's how it's done.
Yeah, and getting a thing. Because as soon as you said that, I'm like, oh, man, I would have been disappointed, too. Like, oh,
yeah.
Like,
and they put the card in there, and it just didn't have no words. And I was like, oh, so you just didn't put no words this month? Like, that's the part that let me know you think about it. Everything else is just automatic. Like, so it's like, fine, these are cute, but now there's no connection really there.
And so it takes time to really get to know your partner, to be able to receive those criticisms, because I've like given a partner feedback before, and they're like, what do you mean I didn't do that thing? I do this and this and this and this and this. Like, what do you mean? And I'm like, And I appreciate all those things. And because I say ask for this doesn't mean that I negate all of those things. But
that's what makes these conversations so difficult, because then as soon as people stop feeling appreciated, you kind of stop getting anything, or they start feeling like, oh, I can't never do enough, so like what's the point? And so it's touchy. It is touchy, but you really have to, I guess is where it's important that you have to actually care about your partner enough that you're trying. And I think for a lot of people, or us who are more like high efforty type people, we tend to put a lot of thought or effort into stuff. And then, like, I know for me, like, I get upset when I don't get when they don't think the same way. And I don't know, maybe, again, it's just about finding people who do think in the same way as you about those things. So there's some people who don't care about certain things. So I would definitely encourage you to consider and think about what's your romance style. Like, how do you like to receive romance? And is it even the same as how you give romance? To consider partners, consider when you're dating or whatever's going on with your life, like, how does that fit in?
Yeah, and if you're not sure, so you can do love language tests, you can ask people, but sometimes I think that you don't know until you get there. So maybe you're not sure what you like, but if you think back on relationships, oh, I hated that. Oh, that was really sweet. I love this little thing. And that way you can start to communicate. And then if you're unsure, definitely just start to ask your partner, like, yo, what's one thing I did this month that made you feel special? Or things like that, because one of my best friends and her partner are doing premarital therapy, and her fiance was telling the therapist that he really like just wants her to like help him get ready for work. And she was like, what do you mean? I do this and I do this and I do this. And he's like, well, like, if you just help me set up my work area and make me some tea in the morning when you make your tea. And she did it the other day, and she was like, yo, his mind was blown.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and she ran him a bath and made him some tea. And like, when I tell you, she was like, he was floating. He brought me home flowers. He was so excited.
And so that's like that Usher thing where it's like, well, when you make somebody feel good, they want to make you feel good. Like, it's a cycle. Like, why we so easily can be in the cycle of making each other feel bad. And it's like, how could we get in the cycle of making each other feel good? That's a really good, beautiful story. Because that's how it feels. Like, I've had guys be like, dang, nobody did nothing for you before. If they've done something small, and I just be like, wow, I love this so much. And it's like, it will blow people's mind, but also just pay attention to that. And also let yourself be open and don't act like you don't need anything or don't want certain things or whatever. Like, be real with yourself, be real with your partner, and be romantic. Have some romance in the air.
Yeah, make sure your self-intimacy game is up there, because that is a huge piece of being able to give and receive love, intimacy, romance, all those things.
Yes, we hope you guys learned something about romance today. Let us know if anything romantic happens for you that I need to hear about, because if I don't worry about it. Happens this week. Let us know at Carlie's Couch on everything. Follow us, leave a review, leave us 5 stars again, or if you haven't. And we hope you have a beautiful Valentine's Day week.
Bye, y'all.